Hey, what's up you guys? Right now I am going to be working on my hair for my project that I'm coming up with or putting together, I guess. So this is kind of the hair section or so of the video. I'm taking two inspirations because I'm doing her Coachella look, which is, or not look, but her Coachella performance of Everybody's Mad paired with Apeshit. And she kind of has similar hair in between too. So how she kind of has it laid out is, so this is the hair first off that I have that I'm going to be using. She's a little rough right now because I have been rehearsing in her, which you've seen in previous videos, but it's almost more gelled down when it comes to the actual scalp part and then has more free-flowing movement, which I think will be great because in the dance break of Everybody's Mad, she has a lot of hairography, which if it was loose fitted to the actual scalp, it would get in the way. I mean, also at the same time, from watching videos and doing my research on her, she has a lot of fans also on her stage, which helps blow back her hair. But I mean, obviously I can't do that. So this is one of the inspirations I have right here on my computer. And then the other one is going to be from actual Apeshit itself, which it should be just about the same hair. So I'm just using these kind of as my reference photos while I'm working on building the hair itself. I think this is probably the best view. So see how she's kind of has it gelled down here. She has a lot of oil, it seems, to be put in the hair, but I'm going to leave a little bit, my hair a little bit more dry just because I'm going to be using it a multitude of times. But off that, I hope you guys enjoy. I'll try to walk you guys through the steps. I do have music playing in the background, so hopefully it doesn't get like muted out or so. If not, I'll have to do voiceover. But I hope you guys enjoy. So I recently did just shave my hair just because I had blonde on, if you haven't seen other previous videos. Just coming off of that, I wanted something fresh to start. I want to grow out my natural hair again rather than having it blonde because it's awfully dead. But it's a lot easier to fade because No Name wears a lot of darker hairs. So it's a lot easier to fade into my actual natural hair color rather than that blonde. But so right now, because she's a little bit of a mess because of rehearsal, I'm just going to kind of clean her up right now. So what I typically do is I take the two straps that are inside the wig and I attach them to each other. That's going to be the tightest fit for me. And then she kind of does have a little bit of the comb in the back that connects to the scalp hair. Obviously that's not going to connect to my hair because I barely have any. I just want to untangle and pull these out. Give me 1 second, I have to go grab a brush really quick. Okay, I got a brush in my spray bottle. So typically what I do working out on this, so underneath I'm using a thicker tooth comb or whatnot. What you kind of use with something like, say if you had like a fro and you're kind of laying down the edges, just so that way I can kind of comb back the hair into a natural position of where it first started. So this hair I have to be really careful because it's really curly and frizzy. So I kind of just hit it through. But I'm doing this on the underneath rather than doing it on the top because it would create even more frizz in all honesty without any water in it. I'm just trying to take out as many tangles as I possibly can without overcompensating the actual movement and flow of the hair. Because at the end of the day, when you're on the stage performing this number, people aren't going to see it. So typically I would go ahead and style this on a model, but because my debut is actually going to be this Wednesday coming up, I'm just going to go ahead and save myself the time and style it on myself now rather than later. So I have my reference photo down here if you guys wanted to see, so I'll go ahead and be working off of that. So we have a lot of work to do, honestly. Because first we're going to start by separating the edges a little bit, or at least as much as we can. And then that's when I'm going to go ahead and start working on the scalp itself. So I just have cute little separators right here. Just go pull most of that hair back. And then I'm going to use a small tooth comb, or I guess a rat comb. I'm just going to try to pull as much of those baby hairs out as I can. So we're just going to go ahead and pull those forward. Because later I'm actually going to be laying these down. I'm going to gel them to my lace, so that way if I'm ever in a hurry to do a show or a performance, or say even this number, I can just throw the wig on and glue it down to my scalp rather than having to lay all the edges and everything. It'll just save me a lot more time. In all honesty, I should have did this beforehand, before I even started rehearsal, because it's a little bit harder to scape out. Like, I'm having to pull a little bit more of the longer individual hairs to the front, just so that way, oh, not me bumping into the camera, just so that way I have enough hair to kind of bring forward to scalp off. So I think this should be a decent amount of the baby hairs. I don't know if you guys can really see necessarily. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull those forward. And then I'm going to go ahead and wet the base, just so that way I can kind of push it back, so that way it doesn't necessarily interfere with the baby hairs that I'm doing. And I hope this like film setup is good. I'm not too sure, but I want to do this in my mirror rather than doing it out there on a mannequin, just because my show is coming up soon, or my debut I should say. So I'm going to use that same exact brush and just pull those baby hairs forward. And then next what I'm going to go ahead and do is, if I can find it, I'm going to find my eyebrow razor and my setters. So I have an edge control that I typically use, and then I'll go over with some Got2b spray. Those hairs, because in the actual show itself, Beyonce doesn't have a lot of baby hairs. She kind of just has a slick back. But because this is going to be a wig that I'm using for a multitude of different performances, I'd much rather get baby hairs set and laid instead of worrying you have to do it later. So I just go ahead and use an eyebrow razor and just cut those longer hairs that I have, because I lost the presets that were already in the wig from rehearsing in it too much. So as you guys can see, I think I have those baby hairs. So we'll go ahead and I'm just going to take my brush and take a little bit of this edge setter, and I'm just going to pull those down, just so that way they're glued down. And I don't necessarily have to worry about them getting tangled or retangled back up in the hair and lost to where I have to do this process. Again. I'm just going to go ahead and pull those down. It takes a minute for this edge control to set in. So I'm fine with just pulling them straight down. And then we're going to style the main base of the actual wig itself in a second. Once I get these all laid down and don't have to really necessarily worry about them getting recaught back up in the wig. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and take my finger and just pull those down, just so that way it's kind of more of a smoother finish, so that way if any of the longer hairs do get stuck or in the wig, I can easily differentiate what's what. And then next, we'll go ahead and take a little bit of Got2b spray. We'll go over that just so that way it kind of gels it down a little bit more. And then we're going to go ahead and go down the center of the hair. We're going to take that same brush that we've been using and we're just going to pull it out. I have not tweezed the center just yet, but I want to make this as flat as possible right before I do tweeze. I did put a little bit too much hairspray on, so let's go dab that off a little bit. Ooh, before it gets into my eye. can feel it running down. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull as much as possible, or get this centerpiece as flat as possible. So we're just going to go ahead and keep wetting the centerpiece. And just keep pulling that hair down, trying to gel it down as much as possible. I will be going in with a little bit of gel in a minute, but first I just kind of want to get it flat as possible before, with no baby hairs, or I mean dead ends or flyaways, I guess I should be saying, because this is a synthetic wig. So I want to get this as flat as possible in the center before I start plucking. So I typically don't put makeup down the center of the hair, but with this one, because the center is so small with the lace, I will be. So now that that's a little bit more flat, I'm going to go ahead and take my blow dryer. Just go dry that up a little bit, while also pressing down to try to make that center as flat as possible. Again, we're going to kind of go over those edges or the front of the wig. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and take my tweezers, and I'm just going to kind of run up and down, plucking out some of the hairs to kind of reveal a little bit more of the lace. And I'm not really necessarily worrying about pulling the hair out, because once I brush with that tie down brush again and then go over with a rat comb, it should get most of the hair out. I'm just more focusing on getting the hair plucked from the actual lace itself and making it seem as natural as possible. So I typically take about inch separation, or about a half an inch in between down the center, and then I will add foundation on the underneath of the wig to make it fit more to my scalp. So whenever I lay, I know other queens might not do it, or I know they don't, but when I lay a wig down, I lay it down with a bald cap, so I don't really have to worry about my natural hair taking through the lace, or at least the color, to show that I'm actually wearing a wig. So I'm going to go ahead and take the brush and see where we're kind of at in the center. Again, I'm just doing this to kind of flatten it out again, and then see where we are at and how much hair we have removed from plucking. Which you do have to be very careful with this step, because sometimes you can overpluck and then you take too much and you see way too much lace and it seems irregular. So this moment's going to take a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and either speed through, or I will cut this out of the video. Brush that out a little bit. So I did have a little bit of a rip in the lace because I was plucking maybe a little bit too hard, but it's okay, because once I have a bald cap on and I put makeup over it, it should all just blend in anyways. So I think we're pretty much done with plucking for now. Obviously, as time goes on, as I'm styling the wig, if I want to change it a little bit more, I will just add a little bit more plucking. But what you can see is like this center up into the middle is flat, and then I'm going to bring that out slightly, just a little bit more, and then I'm going to have a bump almost in the wig, and then it'll be flared out. So that way when I'm dancing with the wig, it's really just the body of the wig moving rather than the scalp of it moving. So I'm going to go ahead and brush this back down. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some more Got2b spray. And when it's all flat like this, it makes it a lot easier to go ahead and add bobby pins in, because then you don't have to really worry about the shape of the wig, because it's just flat. So I'm bringing about out to here or so, right where it would match if doing a diagonal down to the center of my nose. And then I'll have it bump out and then be the full body of the wig. But right now I'm just trying to get this as flat as possible, and I'll be adding gel in a few moments. But right now we're just going to stay with the Got2b spray. And again, just working on getting that as flat as possible. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and take out these separators. I'm just going to lightly brush through just to kind of get all the hairs as straight as possible, but I don't want to try to pull out those curls that are already placed in the wig naturally. So a lot of wigs, if you get them wet, or curly set wigs, if you get them wet, they should return to their natural setting. This isn't necessarily true for a wig like this, because the look is more so off of a free-flowing frizzy look. So when you wet it, the curls don't really necessarily set back to what they originally had been. So I'm just kind of brushing out whatever knots are in here. It necessarily doesn't matter for the performance, but just the normal upkeep of the wig is why I'm doing it. And so I'm running my fingers a little bit through, but not as much, because it is a frizz prone wig. Like, the frizz is going to happen naturally. Gotta make sure to constantly clear out, because it is a frizz wig. Clear out. So what I'm next going to do is I'm going to run some oil through the hair, just so that way it kind of alleviates some of the stick of the frizz, but doesn't necessarily get rid of the body of the hair. So as you can see, when it's in its natural state backwards, it kind of is flat here, gets to about this point, which is going to be the center of the nose, and then flares out. As I go along, I'm going to go ahead and gel down this part, so that way it's as flat as possible. I'll blow dry it to set it, and then I will run some oil through this hair. Then after that, I'm going to go ahead and set the baby hairs on the lace. And then when I come to actually set the wig for the performance, I'll cut the lace to match, so that way it blends in nicely and the baby hairs will cover whatever lace is still remaining. So I'm just going to go ahead and detangle this hair a little bit more, and I will be right back. So now that I've got a lot of the tangle out of the actual hair, as you can see, I'm kind of running my fingers a little bit more freely through it. As I'm still running my fingers through it, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of oil, silk oil, or from BioSilk, through the hair, because this is a natural synthetic. It's going to give it more of a real feel to it, and the hair won't stick as much to itself. So I'm going to go ahead and just completely smother my hands over with it. I don't want to add too much, because I don't want to get rid of the volume of the hair, because the silk can be slightly heavy. It'll weigh down the hair. Because in the performance, when you do the hairography, I want my hair to be able to move rather than be just constantly gelled down, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep running my fingers through this section until I can kind of just feel that it's ready for me to do the other side. And as you can see, there still are some knots because this is a knot slash frizz prone wig. I just kind of, it's sad to say, I kind of just rip right through it, but also just trying to keep that flatness of the scalp. But this will get rid of like the main frizz that is in the hair as well, because it gives it a little bit more of a weight to it. So again, just completely covering my hands completely, and that's Bio Silk. I'm just running my hands through. If you want more details, like where I get my wigs and stuff from, please just leave a comment below and we can go ahead and I can go ahead and either direct message you, or if there's enough comments, I can just make a video singularly on just making and putting together my wigs for my shows. And that's really based on really anything that I do in these videos. Like if there's something that you want me to specifically see, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to like set aside time to be able to put it together. The whole reason for me making these videos is to show the demonstration of the amount of time and effort that goes into putting together a drag show, from the costumes to the hair to doing the music, and if you have choreography, to do choreography, whether you are copying, getting taught, or making the choreography yourself. Necessarily in this moment or with this performance, most of the choreography is taken from the original choreography that Beyonce had for Coachella or for her other debuts that she had on stage with Jay-Z. One thing I did want to talk about though with you guys is, so I live in Florida. I am performing at Southern Nights in Tampa, and the way they have it set up is more of a competition rather than just a performance setting. So they have different requirements, which I didn't know about until after I had already put together a lot of this, that my music has to be no more than 4 minutes long. And then anything after that, the DJ will fade out my music, and my piece is originally 6 minutes long. So that was a really big hassle, and I know I've already kind of talked to you guys a little bit about that when having to redo my music basically because it wasn't the right length that they had wanted. I even went and spoke to the host a little bit, and I was like, or one of the hosts, and I was like, hey, like, I'm not really in it for the money, like I'm here for just the performance aspect and kind of getting things more under my belt and getting my name out there. Like, is it okay if like whatever tips I make for the night, like I'll give it to the DJ or whatever to expand? And she, I mean, I already kind of knew she was probably going to deny me because I know how shows are run. You're on a specific time restraint and stuff. So with that being, she was like, well, we really can't do that for you. Just because we have a set amount of time that we have, because they typically, how they have it set up is for the competition is it's So You Think You Can Drag, it's every Wednesday night at Southern, is that there are about 6 to 8 performers, and it's broken up into 2 teams. And it is going off of the audience's screams. So with that being, no matter how well you do, if the audience doesn't like you necessarily, or say there's more of a popular queen there, you can still lose. So I have been going to Southern every single Wednesday just about. I missed last Wednesday sadly, but I had other things that pulled me towards that I had to attend to. But I have been trying since I moved here and have discovered Southern to be able to go there and network and get to know kind of the community a little bit more, so that way they kind of get to know my name and be like, hey, like this Wednesday coming out of, because today is Thanksgiving, I had told everyone there who was like, oh my god, you're so beautiful, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, I would give them my name and be like, oh yeah, next Wednesday is my debut, make sure you come and support me and stuff, and just kind of networking, so that way I get my name out there a little bit more. and build off of that, because people are more prone to come see you if they have a face, if they've danced with you, or if they've spent time with you, or you know, they want to buy you a drink. Like every time that I go there, it tends to be like one group of girls or a guy or something who wants to buy you a drink or whatever. Sadly, I'm underage, so I wouldn't get an actual drink, but you know, just something. It was nice and sweet. But I'd always take the opportunity to be like, hey, I'm making my debut. So my debut is going to be December 1st, which is next Wednesday. So I would make sure to let people know, like, hey, I'm going to be here. I would love if you come out and support me, because for each person that's out in the audience, that's an extra scream that I can get under my belt, and people would scream for me and make me more likely to win, which isn't necessarily how I would like to do things. I would much rather me win because I have a great set. I took a lot of time and effort in putting things together, rather than, oh, people like me, scream for me, you know? But this is just kind of how the price of the game is, which is really sad. At least at Southern, that's how the setup is. So that's just kind of how that's played off. Everyone there is really sweet and everything, don't get me wrong, but I'm just a little perturbed that I've worked so long on this set and have worked so hard on putting this set together just to find out that, oh yeah, you can lose just because people don't know your name. Which is very, very irritating, but I guess that's just the name of the game at this point. So I've gone ahead and re-sprayed my center down, just so that way the scalp's more. As you can see, like, do you see how it's more glued down here? Again, I know I keep going back to that triangle to the center of my nose, but that's how she has it in the picture and in the videos that I've seen of her performing. So it's glued down here, so that way when I'm moving my hair, I don't really have to necessarily worry about this hair getting frizzed up and stuck in my face. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is use some glue, and I'm going to go ahead, there's still a little bit of edge control on here, but I'm just going to use my edge brush. I'm just going to gel down the real base of the wig and just push that out. That will get rid of any baby hairs that I have, and also will flatten it as much as it possibly can be flattened. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but like I can see how flat this side is compared to this side. Just go ahead and push that through. And then after I'm done running around the base, I'll go ahead and brush it through the actual hair itself. So I am using a large amount of glue to go ahead and lay down this center part, just because I want it to be completely solid. For that way, because over time it will wear down and I'll have to touch it up every so often. But also at the same time, I want it to be almost like, I don't know how I would describe it, I guess like a helmet in a way. I can just throw it on and glue it down my head. So go ahead and brush that out a little bit, so that way it's as flat as possible. And I go ahead and take that brush again, and we just pull it flat. I'm going to go ahead and just lightly comb that through the top, just so that way it fades out into the frizz a little bit more nicely, because the gel will be a little bit more mixed in with the hair. And I'm going to really drag it out right here where it's from the center of my forehead about to where my eyebrow is, because that's where the hair is going to part the most and you have more risk of the hair flying in your face. So it kind of is all gelled back from the hair, so that way when I'm going ahead and hitting the choreography, it's more from the eye down that the hair is moving rather than anywhere up here. So I'll go ahead and push that back and through. And just kind of brushing up the hair a little bit more. I try to be careful not to get rid of the curl because I want to keep the same composition that the wig had naturally. If anything, I will just re-wet it and see how the curl comes back with that preset that's already in the hair. So again, just doing the same thing to the other side, pulling down and back. Again, have to be careful not to lose those baby hairs, which I already started to do. But you know what? We work with what we're doing and what we have. So again, just pulling that gel down and out into the hair, so that way it kind of keeps the same mold. So if you notice in the performance itself, I don't know if I've already talked about it because I'm filming this at a different time, but in the choreography, I start out with my headpiece on in the costume, and I incorporate it in the choreography to be able to take the headpiece off, but I'm actually for the start of it going to be just holding the headpiece because I don't want it to really mess up necessarily the hair that I'm having on. I'm just going ahead and pulling again that gel out. I am going to go over with a mixture of my hair product. I have some silk or bio silk mixed in with water that I will spray over the hair to kind of wet it down, and once it dries it'll be more set. And I'll get rid of most of the frizz. But now you can kind of see how this part again is just glued down as much as possible to my hair. And then off that kind comes the actual what is it? I guess the actual body of the hair, I guess I would say. So when moving, as you can see, it doesn't really necessarily get into my face because it's preset right there, which once the gel actually dries down and everything, then I'll probably go over with a brush a little bit more, so that way it's not necessarily like unnaturally pressed down to my scalp, but it seems more natural. I could just grow out that way, and that's how the shape of the hair is. Okay, again going over with that hairspray. And then just wiping down. Taking the brush right where those edges of the spray that I just laid met. Walking that over. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and use, I love this bottle because it's just a preset squirt bottle, so if I squeeze like 3 times it'll go for like a half a minute or so. It's great. So this is that mixture again that I was saying. I'm really just going to go over the top layer of my hair rather than the bottom because I don't want to necessarily get rid of the volume again like I had said at the beginning. But I do want to clean up the top edges where a lot of the frizz is at. So again, I'm just taking my hand and kind of wiping it in so that way it wets the hair rather than the hair just sitting on top of the frizz and bundling. So now I'm going to go ahead and take that brush, just kind of go over lightly on top and flatten out a little bit more. if anything, when it comes to the performance, if I think the hair is too frizzy again, I'll have that squirt bottle with me and I will wet it a little bit, so it'll give the hair a little bit more weight to it, so that way when I'm moving, it won't move as easily when, say, it's like in its full frizz mode. So you can kind of see the difference from that side to this side. This side is more frizzed up because it's not wet necessarily, and this side is a little bit more connected, I guess I would say. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of massage that water and to the hair. And just pulling it down. Okay, and then it's time for the other side. This is a lot of hair to have to be dealing with. And again, when I am setting the wig for the actual show, I will be styling it a little bit more, but I'm just kind of giving like the behind the scenes or the basics of what I would do styling wise to kind of make it as much as Beyonce has. Obviously I'm not copying exactly because I don't know exactly what products and everything they use, but I'm trying to just get the same kind of movement and flow that she has for the performances. So because there is a lot of hair and a lot of frizz here, I'm using a lot of this spray in it. And again, just kind of wiping my hands through to get a lot of that frizz out on the top surface of the hair. So after this, because I already have the wig on, I'll probably run through the choreography a little bit, just so that way I can see how this hair moves naturally now that it's kind of more styled. But after this weekend, I am going to be taking a break. So I have been listening to my music every single day, so that way I can get all the different aspects that Beyonce puts in. I always listen to the live version because it's different for each performance. So I can take what I like and what I don't like from the performance and add it in to my performance or my version of the performance. But for my last week, because I've been rehearsing and hitting this so much, I want to take a break from the music so that way when I'm actually doing the performance it seems more new to me and I'm more excited to do it rather than feeling like I'm just walking through the movement of everything. So I'm going ahead and just pushing and walking that water again through the whole piece rather than just the side and side. Make sure I get the back as well. Go ahead and flattening out that center. I'm going to go ahead and just do a rough pull to the back so that it's all gathered into one piece. So that's going to be the main base of the hair or the shape. Now that I have it gelled down and then have the fluff coming off or the body of the hair coming off, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lay these edges a little bit. So I'll go ahead and just split straight down the center, half and half, and then I will just brush out. I'm going to go ahead and pull this part up. And then I am now going to add a little bit more water to this mix because the setting is a lot harder. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend that into the hair that is already there. Again, leaving out the lace. And then just pulling it back. So there's going to be a lot of white residue from just me doing the natural setting. But once I go over with water, it should be just fine. So I'm going to pull a little bit of the longer hairs down as well, to just make it seem a little bit more natural to fade in. I'm just going to go ahead and pull whatever is left of the lace back and down. So I'm taking the comb side rather than the actual brush side of it, because I want to get those hairs separated when I'm laying them down. And I just want to kind of evenly match the swoop of the hair I have on the other side that I had just laid. Again, there's going to be a lot of residue from the gel, but you don't necessarily need to worry about that because once you go over with water, it should disappear. And if not, the majority of the lace is going to be cut off anyways. Go ahead and just pull that through. And now I am incorporating some of that edge control into the longer hairs. And then blending out those baby hairs just directly in. So I'm not going to do my foundation now with the hair just because your skin is ever changing and I'm not too sure what color I'm going to be using for the actual performance, depending on if I become slightly tanner. So now that those edges are a little bit more laid, we'll go ahead and spray them. And I'll let that sit. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and do a overall brush of the hair. And again, just trying to get that as fast as possible while incorporating it into the rest of the hair so that way it naturally blends out. So it's really messy now, but when I go to lay down the hair and I'm doing detail work and actually cutting the lace and everything and putting the makeup on, I'll be able to blend it out and make it seem a little bit more, not me having something on my face, make it seem more natural. Just right now, again, I'm just working on the main shape, so that way I don't have a lot to do when I'm actually doing the face and then applying the wig for the actual show itself. So this is kind of what it's preset to be. I'm gonna go ahead and run a blow dryer over the main set so that way it sets in, and then I'll probably run through my choreography once or twice, or the whole show I guess for the contest, and then we'll probably take it off and let it set on a mannequin head. So thank you guys so much, and look forward to speaking to you next on the next part of this journey. Thank you.